There we go. We are live now. So they're going to ask you some questions, and here are the questions. Are you ready?
Okay.
So tell us your chiropractic story. Like, what influenced you to do what you do in chiropractic?
Well, I would refer them, of course, to the video on our website with where I go into more detail. But basically, it was in the repair of a older scanner, a flat pack infrared scanner that Dr. Myron Brown had, and I was asked to look at it and see if I could make it work better. It was at that point, working with Dr. Brown and then being introduced to Dr. Bud Crowder, where both of them were infusing me with the chiropractic philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
And as an engineer, I was, very interested in what are they doing.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at temperatures on the back before when I was in graduate school working with physical therapy students who were measuring temperature along the back using our lab equipment at the University of Iowa. And I remembered that. And so here I am 25 years later in a chiropractor's office, and they're measuring temperature on someone's back. So that caught my interest. I upgraded and repaired the old instrument that Dr. Myron Brown left with me for a couple of days. And out of curiosity, I set it up with a oscilloscope that had a memory tube that you could have a graph go across, and the phosphor would hold that image. I traced it, and about a week later, we went back, and he ran his scanner up my back again, and I held the tracing up, and it was a perfect match. He explained to me that I was in pattern, and I started thinking, well, what does that mean? Well, over time and going to all sorts of different seminars and lectures, it really hit me how incredible it was that the human body could present itself with a repeating pattern, an image, breaks at the same levels as the Gonstead doctors would say, over time, over years. I have graphs on me 25 years apart that look like they were traced. And I know that that is not a good sign. But it also, as an engineer, tells me that whatever data the body is presenting when it is in this fight or flight response is incredible. What a beautiful, what a valuable, but I was going to say beautiful piece of data to say that my body isn't functioning correctly. And that's what got me into chiropractic.
Okay.
It was later that I met Clay Thompson and so many other doctors from Glenn Stillwagon and on and on and on that all spoke the same philosophy of how the body could heal itself when this pattern was broken and the body was taken out of that fight or flight response.
Cool. So they're going to ask you, Luke is probably going to say, well, what makes you unique then in the chiropractic world?
What makes me unique? Well, I've been doing engineering control work for 50 years. I'm an old analog guy. That means transistors and tubes and the amplification of signals, low-level signals, biological signals. I worked with the Skin and Cancer Hospital in Philadelphia for a year. Cornell University, junior project building an artificial arm controlled by the EMG and tricep signals. I've been around measuring body function and EMG and temperature my entire life. And as a mechanical engineer, I better understood the optics involved with infrared measuring. And as as someone who played with electronics since he was 13 years old, when my dad gave me a radio set with two tubes and an A battery and a B battery, I also had some experience with the electrical side of things, which is a rare combination. And I'm a hacker. I just stayed at it on a project until it worked. And it took 5 years to get the right combination of operational amplifiers, sensors, and optics to make the Titron scanner as precise and repeatable as it is.
That's amazing. So you're not a chiropractor.
No,
So,
no,
so that's one of the things is you've devoted your life to help with the chiropractic profession, and yet you're not a chiropractor. That is something I'm proud of. Um, so that's really cool. They're going to ask another question. What is your mantra or quote that helps you with your commitment and momentum doing what you do?
my father and grandfather were in the textile business, and they were also on a small farm and raised thoroughbred horses. And I learned at an early age a work ethic that just said you do what you promise and you don't worry about whether you get paid or not. If you make a commitment, you complete it and you stick with it. And knowing the outcome of a correct adjustment and the lives and stories of the hundreds of patients that I and my staff have heard by doing different seminars, uh, I can't think of a more noble profession and just something that needs to be done. What BJ Palmer discovered with this graphing and with the correct adjustment, that's Nobel Prize material, and nobody gets it. And I'm afraid to say a lot of chiropractors don't get it. And I just want to see this change and up. I just want to see the profession, and I see it in the students now today.
Mm-hmm.
The excitement that they are seeing looking at the science part of the triangle and looking and knowing that there is an instrument that they can trust that will show them exactly what the body's doing. So that's my commitment and my staff.
Yeah.
Every one of us, there's 8 of us involved in this. Over the years, there's been over 40 of us, different friends that have all pitched in. I am not a programmer. My partner, Chris Harmon, is an excellent programmer and started with us when he was 14 years old. That's his commitment. So we're all, we should probably all be committed. But everyone involved with Titronics is in it for the love of the profession and for what they have seen and heard as listening at trade shows as to some of the stories, the case studies of people that have been taken care of. And I myself, a manipulation back in 1990, I ended up not knowing how precise an adjustment needs to be. I was on an inhaler for 3 years until Dr. Bill Amello in California saw my graphs that I was sending out on the internet as example of how repeatable the instrument was. And he said, please come out here. One adjustment. And that was 1993. I haven't touched an inhaler since. So I'm a believer.
Cool. So, how would the world change if everyone started getting adjusted?
There would be a lot less people taking pills. there would be more people. Right now, I'm a little concerned about my blood sugar level. I I would love, and I would love to be a better patient. I've got to travel over an hour to see a chiropractor who knows how to read my graphs and could deliver the adjustment that I need. And I must say, I'm a bad patient. I just don't take the time to do it. And I wish I did. I know that if I did, I would not be on a path that I don't want to be on. I don't want to be taking any meds for diabetes. I'm working on my diet, but I know I'm in pattern and I just have to take the time and get myself under care, even if I have to drive over an hour each way to do it.
Yeah. So, where do you see the chiropractic profession in 20 years?
2 places. If the students that are currently showing such great enthusiasm to learn more, and to find mentors that are willing to share with them the precision adjusting techniques that make a difference. Um, we've got a winner, and I see more and more students going, "Hey, there's more to this than what we're seeing," and they want to learn. They're willing to travel halfway across the country to seminars. So that's my hope. If more care isn't done more precisely, and more patients are seeing results that really mean something, I think there's going to be a lot of chiropractors who will spend a fortune on their education working at McDonald's. And that would be a shame for them. And it would be a shame for the millions of people that really need precision care.
So, who are some of your heroes?
Oh boy. Agnes Palmer. I got Dr. Palmer. I got to work with Dr. Agnes for a while. Dr. Mitsushi Akawa in Japan was Dr. Myron Brown's roommate in college. Dr. Myron Brown was the one whose instrument I repaired and who took me down to Sherman College and, showed me the kind of research that they were doing at Sherman. Glenn Stillwagon, Clay Thompson. I got to meet Clay Thompson just before he passed away. Clay, at that time, Clay was in, I don't understand the what he was going through, but he was in a white kind of a bodysuit protective gown. But we showed him Dr. Myron Brown, and I showed him the Titron C3000, our first instrument, and Clay smiled and gave us a thumb up, and that was all I needed to really get excited and say this needs to be done. And I felt it was laid on my shoulders to do it. I always wanted to do something in the medical world, but I don't like blood and guts. And so I knew, and I have a horrible memory. I could never get through med school, but I wanted to do something to work with people. And this was perfect. And I am just honored to be part of this profession.
Very cool. They have a question here, but it's more for a chiropractor marketing to the public. But he may ask, what marketing have you tried that didn't work? And you can say, well, our target market is chiropractors. So it's going to be a little different than a chiropractor trying to find new patients. And they may skip that one. I've heard them ask it differently. So they may skip that one with you. Okay.
My answer would be that basically, we've always been an engineering company, not a marketing company. We've never put many dollars into any marketing, maybe some magazine ads 20 years ago. But we've let the quality of our instrument and word of mouth has basically been what we've relied on. And we're striving always to make the very best of software. And we've always upgraded the instrument whenever there was technology that allowed it, going wireless. We do have a range of motion device, and I'll show you that pair of glasses tomorrow, that I think will be universal to all the chiropractic offices. Dr. Eddie Weller's book that's coming out on thermography, that's technique independent, just thermography, will fill the gap of in that area of education that has been lacking for some time. And I think that will turn around a lot of doctors, if not patients. When I share with a patient what this graph means, they get it. I have a 2-minute, not even that. I say, look, did you ever have a piece of popcorn caught in your teeth? Yeah. And it bugs you until it's removed. Yeah. That popcorn displacing those teeth have upset all the nerves around those teeth that know where they need to be. Now, let's say the same thing happens somewhere in your spine, especially in the upper cervical spine. But those nerves that measure position don't track to a pain center. You don't know it, but they do go to the brain, and they do put your body in that fight or flight response. And the eyes start opening up. This was even happened when I was sharing with some students at Life College 20 years ago, second try. And they didn't know what thermography was or why the doctors use scanners. And I said, now, when you're in that fight or flight response, it's your body's function to limit blood flow to unnecessary organs so that you can run away from the lion and not be its lunch. So different parts of your body, unessential parts, are getting less blood, less nutrients, and they're weakening. And the only way you know it is by looking at the back. Your skin is your largest organ. Certain areas on the skin that are governed by nerves exiting different spinal levels constrict, keeping blood flow from the skin and keeping it for the muscles so you can run and fight. And that's what gives us a temperature profile along your back, as these different areas. On our back, we look like a zebra. And when these different areas go cold, we get a graph. And that graph, if it's not changing over time, means that you are suffering from not having full blood flow and oxygen and nutrients going to all your other organs as well. And all of a sudden, you've got diabetes, or you've got heart disease, or you've got asthma, or you've got whatever the disease is. The only way you know if you're on that path, and Dr. Stillwagon did a beautiful chart on this, is to look at these temperature graphs. Without that, you have no idea. I feel like $1 million today. In fact, I was just lifting a whole bunch of steel around for my solar collectors. But I know I'm in pattern, and I know that I need care. And the only way I know it is from the graph.
Next question is, what one piece of advice would you give to a chiropractic student?
Go to all the seminars you can. Learn, find yourself mentors that you can trust. Call me. I'll give you some names of good mentors. And they're willing to work with, they're willing to share what they've learned. One thing I want to really share, and I've asked permission from these two doctors to share this. Dr. Aaron Elster is one of them, and Dr. Tina Gottlieb. 25 years ago, almost to today, they were two students, Palmer Davenport. They were traveling to the West Coast to Dr. Bill Amalu's office to learn about thermography and adjusting techniques. I would fly out there. This was in the mid-90s. And I would present the seminar the weekend that they talked about thermography. It was Dr. Bill Amalu who adjusted me. And as I mentioned, I haven't touched an inhaler since then. And when he was there, he said, these two young ladies, when you go back, they were just getting into the clinic at Palmer. He said, when you go back, they will take care of you and your family and your friends. And I thought, yeah, right. They couldn't have been 120 pounds, if that, each. And I thought that to be a chiropractor, especially on knee chest, you had to be a martial arts 200-pounder, and which Bill Amalu was, Dr. Amalu was. And he said, no, he said, these gals will take care of you. When we got back to Iowa, I had a van at the time. I would take myself, my son, a friend of mine who was suffering MS. She was in her 50s and was in a wheelchair, could hardly write. And I took my best friend's wife, who had been suffering for 2, 3, 4 years with migraines to the point where she couldn't work. And she was seeing a chiropractor twice a week for all that time, no change. So we all went to Palmer once a week. We got graphs on all of us. one of the students started working with my friend's wife, Janine, and adjusted her. Within about a week, we went back again, and Janine's headaches were disappearing and her grafts were clearing. She was in about a couple weeks later, she was in a car accident, back rear-ended again, and everything was back. At that point, Dr. Aaron had left and got out of the clinic and went back to California where she wanted to practice. And the other doctor, Tina, took over. She knew the listing. She knew how to do, she was trained well on the adjustment, the knee chest adjustment. And she took over and cleared, headaches gone again. Mm-hmm. Janine's husband is a medical doctor. He came to me and he said, Roger, they gave me my wife back. Students, not even graduated. Yeah. What's the problem, doctors? After they both left, Janine was in something happened, headaches back. And I suggested and took her to a doctor that had practiced 30 years. Couldn't do it. And I asked Dr. Mello, what's the deal? And he said, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So what I'm sharing with you students is that right out of the box, you can be an incredible adjuster and an incredible chiropractor, but you need a tool, you need good training, and you need a mentor that'll share with you protocol and how to maintain a patient. One of the older doctors in California had a student with him who was mentoring, and he told him, he said, when you do an adjustment, especially an upper cervical adjustment where there's a pretty big reaction in the body, don't be anxious to go back. Just let the body heal for a while. The very first patient this student had, a couple brought in their 14-year-old son who was suffering with, he would go into seizures. And he told the family, he scanned him for a day, three scans. Next office visit, he looked over the x-rays and had an idea for the listing. And he told the parents, this adjustment, I'm going to adjust cervically, C1. This is a very powerful adjustment, and your son may go into a seizure. And sure enough, he did. And the lad dropped to the floor, and the parents were like, oh, doc, you really know what you're doing. First patient of a doctor in his first day in his office. And within the next week, he scanned him with our scanner, still sort of in pattern, but he knew and remembered his mentor saying, do not be anxious to go back in and change anything. It could be a snake chasing its tail. You could supplicate the poor young man again. He waited the next week. The grafts were clearing. The week after that, even better. And the parents at 1 month were saying, he's only had 2 seizures all month. And the grand mal has disappeared. Mm-hmm. So there's so much power in your hands. And don't be anxious to go back in and again and again and again when there's change occurring. And only the grafts can tell you that.
Roger, that's a lot of wisdom, really. I'm glad I'm recording this because this is some powerful stuff you're sharing.
I wish I would have put on a better shirt.
It's okay. When it's that powerful, it doesn't matter what you're wearing. So they may ask, what do you listen to? What do you read? What are some of your hobbies? Do you listen to any podcasts? That kind of stuff.
Well, I like working on old engines, generators. I've restored old cars. I've got some Army trucks I'm working on. I used to like target shooting, but now I don't like to take the time to clean the guns. So, working on putting in a large solar field right now. I've got about 80 solar collectors that some friends have helped me put up ourselves, and tying into the grid, tying into our battery bank in the house. Reading, I just started getting the Wall Street Journal. I like watching newscasts, and I'm going to put a plug in. I've followed Dr. Corey, Kory, and the Frontline Doctors now for over a year. And the incredible research and actual field work that they have been doing using ivermectin as a preventative and as a treatment, early treatment for COVID. And every Wednesday night they have a Zoom meeting, and I just finished watching one tonight. All the other countries in the world are now pushing and using ivermectin as an incredible antiviral, even though it was designed and used for 40 years as a parasitic antiparasite drug. 4 billion doses, 12 deaths in 40 years. They've used it for kids, everybody. This is probably not the place to share that, but it would have saved lots of lives if a year ago when Corey went before the Senate and said, please just look at the data from all these other countries where it's been used. It's a cheap $4 pill. Amen. I said my piece.
Yeah. All right. So those are the questions. They may get a little bit more specific about the device, about the scanner.
Mm-hmm.
Neither Jim and Luke are neither one chiropractors.
Okay.
So they may not get into the intricacies of what's going on. I don't know. But if you cover just what you covered tonight, it'll be a good recording, a good podcast.
I trust that a lot of the students will be able to get a hold of Dr. Weller's book.
Mm-hmm.
And if they watch the video, they can skip through the first 15 minutes of the video that I did on the website. That's a background on Titronics. The last 15 minutes is how the scanner was developed.
So yeah, and then point them to the website. That stuff's on the website, Titronics.com. So yeah, looks good, sounds good. Setup is really good. So you're not going to do it there. You're going to do it there, or
I think right here.
Okay. Everything sounded really good. Daisy interrupted a couple of times, but that wasn't too bad. So everything looks good, sounds good.
I can bring up a C4000, and I think I even have an old C2000 that I can show, but that's all on the website too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else you need from me?
Oh, I think just this practicing tonight. So I assume that they will send me an invitation as you did tonight.
Yep.
And they have my cell phone. So if anything goes wrong and that as they're setting up, they can certainly call.
Right. And then, just make sure your phone's off so people try to get a hold of you. They don't interrupt it.
Okay. Yes, I can do that.
So, great, man. Yeah, you'll do well. This is going to be good. This is the kind of stuff that we need for the